If you would please remember with me that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. And how does that feel for you? And always remember that the back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down, up and down, for not just you, but for everybody, every being. Thank you so much for joining in today. Today is Friday, October 22nd, 2021. Feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. Stretching our self-awareness like a muscle every weekday morning. Using some body magic tricks to feel so good, so better objectively in that body of yours. In this simulation of ours, in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. We are always holding our controller properly, as in, we are always inviting you to interlace fingers with us in your awareness by pretending that there is a candle in front of every human being's lips that they are trying to not put out, including me right now. You're looking at me, including yourself right now if you're looking in the mirror, including your partner right now if you're looking at them, or your lover right now if you're looking at them. Wherever you are, whenever thou art. Interlocking fingers, so to speak, in our awareness by all being aware of people in the same way, as in becoming aware of them. By igniting this candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out in their mind's eye, in their imagination. As the muscles that are involved with feeling the sensations involved with imagining the candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, you're just allowing it to flicker. The muscles involved with that just happen to be the muscles highly related to aligning the spine the properly way, because we know, as we are breaking down misconceptions brought onto us by society every weekday morning here on Pal Go On, as we know, the weight-bearing portion of the spine is not indeed the back, but is indeed the front. If you would say it with me. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Say it with me. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. One more time. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. As we are commonly told to align our backs towards these walls and towards this upwards idea of up, but never towards the feeling, but not here on Padawan, as we're aligning towards the feeling and feeling so good for it. As we remember that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front, we might remember that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, as we are feeling how forward of the body that might feel. To anchor the tip of the tongue to the back of the bottom front teeth. To remember that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the bottom of the front teeth. To the back of the bottom front teeth. Back of the bottom incisors. And we notice how far the forward of the body that might feel. As we're holding our controller together properly, as we're holding our controller the same way together in this world, we might not know how each of us plays. We might want to be on the same page about how to set up the stage of our bodies so we are all on the same page. We are all holding the controller properly in this simulation of ours in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. You made it. Welcome, come through. The Pal Go On, wherever you are, whenever thou are, whether you are here right now or watching in the future in a VOD, a video on demand. We hope you do enjoy your stay. We hope you do enjoy feeling that controller properly with us today. Today is a Freedom Friday, October 22nd, 2021. Can you believe we're already here? It is 5:37 a.m. Wake the heck up. We are supercharging your morning. Let's go, baby. It is Friday, October 22nd, 2021, a Freedom Friday. Meaning the topic today is about the freedoms and how to feel free in that body of yours, usually by being authentic. How the heck do you be authentic? Isn't everybody so different? Yes, but doesn't everyone have a relationship with themselves and trying to be more authentic, trying to get all their needs met while still remaining authentic so that we can see our needs properly? Today on Freedom Friday, we will be talking about how to love your failures. Loving failures. How the heck do you stay happy all the time? How are you always laughing all the time? How do you not when you're loving your failures? And when you're failing so often, aren't you loving life so often? How do you love your failures? Do failures get you down? Does it make it perhaps harder to feel the front of your spine sometimes? Does failure perhaps sometimes make it hard, or does it distract you from remembering that there's a candle in front of everybody's lips that they're trying to not put out? If we are not watching ourselves closely, could failures just pass us by and have us feeling like it might happen to us again, and we have a relationship with these problems that make us feel like we cannot overcome them? If we are not watching ourselves, do we not strip ourselves the ability to improve ourselves so that any unforeseen circumstances like this again we can deal with? Don't we need to be watching ourselves so that we can make sure we can overcome suffering in the future? How do we watch ourselves? How do we make sure that we are improving? They might be one and the same, as we know awareness is so strong. Simply creating a strong ability to see ourselves may be something of an answer, maybe, as we are pretending that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And in front of my lips that I'm trying to not put out. Might we see what kind of needs draw us away from feeling balanced, from feeling like we can pretend there's a candle in front of our lips easily, from the feelings that our body wants to feel when we remember that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth? Might we see what takes us away from feeling centered enough to function highly for what we know we want? We'll be right back to talk about how to love our failures, how to love our imbalances. Might they show us how to balance again and balance often? We'll be right back after this short break, but only if you remember that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Here in Pack 1. always remembering that our feet are not L's as we are stretching our self-awareness, specifically our self-awareness. As much as we can confirm in this world, ourselves, and whatever we can know in this world, our awareness. Can we confirm anything outside of ourselves? They say seeing is believing, but isn't really grasping and feeling more like believing. As we live in our eyes, but our eyes still distance us from most things, what we know most, what we can confirm is the body, is it not? As we are holding this controller properly together in this simulation of ours in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. Welcome back, everybody. We invite you to pretend that there's a candle in front of every being's lips. May the candle be with you. That they are trying to not put out. And they are not thinking about inhaling or exhaling necessarily. Simply the intention of trying to not put this candle out that is in front of their lips. And we invite you to check your sense of self, observe your sense of self, and see how your body either allows or disallows your body to take action or shift or breathe better, or with what quality your breath is changing as we keep this candle in front of everyone's lips, as we transform the way we view the world from a visual standpoint to a more holistic, objective standpoint, where we are viewing these human beings as machines that, in their mind's eye, or whatever, for you Scott Pilgrim fans, in their imagination, they are holding a candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out, like a birthday candle. And they're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling while you speak to them, or especially as you listen to them. They're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling, simply trying to not put this candle out that is in front of their lips. And your body might reward you, and you might notice if we observe our sense of self, our body might reward us by aligning closer to the truth, by remembering that the tips of our tongues want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. And the back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down, up and down. And we might notice how far forward of the body these feel. The tip of the tongue wanting to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Is that a structure? Or is it more of an intent? The tip of the tongue wanting to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Is that a structure? Or is that a design? The tip of the tongue wanting to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. If we notice how far forward of the body that feels, and always remembering that there's a candle in front of everyone's lips, which also means their tongue. In front of everyone's tongue and in front of everyone's lips, there's a candle that they're trying to not put out. And as they're not thinking about exhaling or inhaling, we draw our focus to the fact that the tip of our tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Now, is that a structure? Or is that a relationship? Is that a structure or is that a relationship? The tip of the tongue wanting to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Is that a structure or is that a relationship? Aren't both of those you, the tip of the tongue and the back of the bottom front teeth? And so don't we literally have a relationship with ourselves that we can improve on as our breathing improves, as relationship between the micro movements and the micro postures and whatever the body has to do to ensure that the tip of the tongue gets to be where it wants to be, which is anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, what is our relationship with that? How strong is our relationship with those muscles in order to breathe well? Is that relationship strong and well connected so that we can breathe well through our mistakes, through our failures? Wouldn't that mean that a stronger relationship with literally ourselves would enable us to love more of our failures, as we would breathe well through our failures? With this strong relationship with ourselves enabling us to breathe well through those moments of failure. Now, is it so hard to leap from that to believing that human beings also have a relationship with themselves, and that the spirit wants to be positive? And that the spirit, like a rubber ducky in a bathwater or in a pond, our spirits want to be raised to the highest. They want to be felt to be good, whatever that might mean, whatever they believe that might mean. Don't our spirits want to be raised? Don't we want to feel good? Doesn't everyone want to feel good, whatever it might mean for them? And what it might look like on the outside, what might reflect on the outside, what the body might need to do might be different for everybody, as we've all have a relationship with how far we've come from whatever ideal relationship with the tip of our tongue wanted to anchor to the back of our front teeth, or whatever parts of our body needed to be. But isn't there a relationship with wanting a strong relationship with ourselves? Don't we all want a strong relationship with ourselves in order to breathe well even through failures? Why? So one can see thyself in the failures, so we can grow from the failures, as emotions, as we know, will cloud the ability to see clearly of what actually happened, which prevents us from actually gaining anything from these mistakes, from these failures. At this point, it's more of a religion or a worldview to realize that all humans are similar. Not just in kind, not just in color, not just in height, not just in body size. It's much deeper than that, like most things. We are similar in our existence. Our existence is a relationship with the self, as there's nothing else that we can control but the self. And we know that having a poor ability to breathe well, or having a poor ability to get the needs of the body met, like breathing well, as we know we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath, making it our most imminent need, our most prioritized need. We're good at compromising for it. We're good at adjusting our posture to meet our needs for the moment. But our breath remains the highest priority for our body. And so different sizes, different races, different sexes, different creeds, different religions, don't we all have a relationship with our own body, trying to feel better, trying to breathe better, as breathing is our utmost prioritized need at any time? And so we might find different ways to satisfy our needs. Some people satisfy their needs in more couth ways. Some people satisfy their needs in more harmful ways. But we all got some needs, like the tip of the tongue needs to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. It wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. And don't we all have a relationship with desperately wanting the granted air, the granted breath that comes from breathing properly, which comes from knowing and having a strong relationship with thyself, including remembering that the tip of the tongue wants to be, where the tip of the tongue wants to be. A strong relationship between the tip of the tongue and the back of the bottom front teeth, creating a strong relationship between you and the ability to overcome internal suffering. Overcome internal suffering like pride, ego, embarrassment, projection, enmeshment, any sort of human condition that we can study right now. all assumed to be afflictions rather than inabilities to soothe thyself. Inability to soothe thyself, which creates a tumultuous or unpredictable relationship with the self, and overcoming which then does become all sorts of different mental issues, psychoses, incorrect roadmaps that people can't understand, unstructured or unordered mental paradigms that people follow for years. Just roadmaps that they follow for years that they assume to be true that no one else can see from the outside. We see these paradigms, or these mental paradigms that we don't understand, as afflictions onto people rather than the composite result of them trying to meet their needs when they had no predictable way to meet their needs. So we find other ways to meet our needs. Breathing needs to be exact. Because how often are you breathing? Pretty much all the time. So if you're having to make compromises for your breathing because you are unable to get a proper breath, so we do all sorts of body contortion compromises to get a breath because no one teaches us how to breathe or what to think about when to breathe, right? So we make all these compromises. But here we are. How often are you breathing? So if you have anything wrong with your breathing, how many times a year do you breathe? So should you find yourself breathing well, as you know that we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. So breathing is our most imminent need. So we're breathing all the time. And if we find ourselves breathing more well in other situations, but less well in other situations, and not relating it to the fact that it's just our body and our inability to know how to coordinate it properly when it needs to breathe, we might be relating it to all sorts of different rules, like people, places, gyms, substances, routines. Unable to be free of all of those simply because we're simply chasing this better breath that we seem to associate with these other activities. When in actuality, it's just those things that distract us least or place our attention the most on the proper channels of our body to balance properly and get out of our own body's way to breathe better. For example, remembering that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, we might notice how far forward of the body that feels. In order to get out of your windpipe's way, we might move the tongue out of the windpipe's way to get more air into the body more naturally and with less effort, by remembering that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Simultaneously, there is a candle in front of your lips, and in front of everybody's lips, as we are all the same being, with all the same wants to breathe better. So all the human beings out there, in your awareness today, I challenge you to pretend that there's a candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out, in their imagination, in their awareness. I challenge you to remember that the tips of their tongues, the tip of your tongue, wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, no matter what you're doing. Whether you're walking by them, whether you're having a conversation, whether you're just saying hi, whether you're underwater. And remembering that the back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical, up and down, everybody. And how does that feel for you? We might notice how far forward of the body that feels, knowing that the windpipe is actually in front of the swallow pipe. So we might remind ourselves and observe our sense of self when we remind ourselves to leave the swallowing muscles alone. And how does that feel for you? Remembering that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical. We're not putting that candle out. You might notice how far forward of the body that feels, and also to leave the swallowing alone. And how does that feel for you? Leave the swallowing muscles alone. And how does that feel for you? How do we love our failures? Might we get out of our own way so that we can feel great while failing, so that emotions don't cloud us from our ability to gather wisdom of how to prevent or deal with this suffering in the future. With a clear vision of ourselves that is one without pain and without unnecessary emotional suffering, with a clear vision of ourselves, do we not turn every failure into a joy as we find ways to rise above, to meet the challenge, and then which to share the challenge with others so that they can learn, and they can connect, and they can prepare themselves? Don't we bring home the bacon like that? Don't we love our failures as long as we can breathe well through them? As we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath, can't we love our failures if every breath feels reliable like life and not death? Be right back after this short break. My name is Herbie. This has been Pagawan. We'll be right back. But only if you remember that the back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical. Yeah, banana. arches and not L's. We're using our kinesthesia to feel that our feet are not L's, but rather arches. I want to welcome you back to the last half of the show. It is 6:02 a.m. Good morning, everybody. 6:02 on Friday, October 22, 2021. Friday, October 2020. 2021. Friday, October 22nd, 2021. 6:02 a.m. Stretching our self-awareness like a muscle every weekday morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. As we're feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. Using some body magic tricks. Just moving our self-awareness around to feel so good in that body of yours. Not really doing much. Just stretching and moving our self-awareness and feeling so rewarded for it, as our body might go on autopilot, feeling so great. We invite you to hold this controller properly in this simulation of ours by pretending that there's a candle in front of your lips, in front of my lips, in front of every human being's lips that they're trying to not put out. It's just flickering there, and they're not thinking about inhaling or breathing in. They're not thinking about exhaling or breathing out. There's just a candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out, as they remember that the tips of everyone's tongues want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front's teeth. That is everybody's. Tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front's teeth. How does that feel for you? Don't just take my word for it. But how does that feel for you? Might we remember that the back 1/3 of our tongues are vertical? How does that feel for you? Up and down, wherever you are, as we are leaving our swallowing muscles alone. Wherever you are, let's stretch our self-awareness. Wherever you are, whether you are in the kitchen right now, making some eggs, whether you are cooking or whether you are cleaning the kitchen. Whether you are alone right now, whether you are with many people in a crowded place, hello! Or whether you are by yourself, enjoying that alone time, loving life in that way. However you might be, we hope that you are loving life with me and all of us here by pretending that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Placing awareness on the front of your shins and leaving those swallowing muscles alone always. Your swallowing muscles should never be engaged consciously. We know this. It is Friday, Freedom Friday. We are talking about loving failures today. What is a failure exactly? We think we know so much. As we discussed yesterday on the Truth Hurts Day, we know nothing. What is a failure? What is a failure? Should this person not have been able to do what they were tasked to do until they have failed such and such amount of times to learn such and such amount of wisdom? What exactly is a failure when the job is finally done? Was there ever a failure, or were they simply progressing? Were they simply building blocks? Was there ever a failure when we progress? Is there ever a failure when our relationship with ourselves is one in which we grow, in which we catalyze, in which we have moments of growth, moments of progression, moments of epiphany, moments of change? What is a failure? How can we love? Isn't love a feeling? If we can feel good, if we can feel this love and induce this love thing from the inside, can we not love all things? Can we not feel the love of all things? Can we not feel so good if love is this feeling? If we feel so good when encountering these failures, are we not able to maintain a spirit which not only encourages us to try more, but also encourages us to learn from the mistake? Can we not love all things, since love is exactly a feeling? As in, how does it feel to get out of your own body's way of breathing well by remembering that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth to get out of the way of your breathing pipe? How does that feel? If love is a feeling, we not love all mistakes. How did that mistake feel? Bring it to how hard it is to get back to the candle. Trying to not put that candle out. How's this embarrassment feel? Well, how hard is it to get back to to get back to the tip of the tongue, wanting to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth? And what do you notice once you get there? When we get out of our body's way to love the moment, because love is a feeling. Right? Love is a feeling, right? Created with the truth without hatred, but love is a feeling, right? How do we know? Because we know. We feel it. Something deeper than knowing. Not emotionally, but we feel it on a deep, visceral level. As in, we feel so that we know. It's a solid feeling, the truth. As in, the tip of the tongue having a relationship with wanting to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Does that feel closer or further from the truth for you? And isn't the truth, love, aren't they the same thing? As life is full of hardships, and what better to love someone than to equip them with the proper abilities to deal with the uncertain, unforeseen circumstances of life. And how do you do so? Not with lies, which are hard to decipher and make it much more difficult to navigate the complexities of life. What are you going to add more lies? You're going to add more uncertainty in a world that is already uncertain. What is love? Truth. Truth and love, interchangeable. Even in our bodies. Realigning ourselves with the truth of the spine being weight bearing at the front portion of it and not the back now allows us to feel better in the body, which allows us to do better in life, experience more authenticity in life, protect our body throughout life, gain more confidence in the proper usage of our body and the avoidance of injury in our body throughout life. Using what? Truth. Is that love? For them? Yes. Why not? Helps them from the inside out. Truth. As we are already this amazing window to this godlike experience, all of us. This conscious, subconscious, unconscious, all merged into one. All these different layers of consciousness. All these different states of consciousness. All merged into one, nothing more stronger than that and the relationship with it. So, how can we love against this monolith beast of power that is behind everybody? This design, this unconscious and subconscious, able to establish and draw meaning from all sorts of seemingly unrelated stimuli? How could you ever help anything like that with so much power? Simply by adding more truths into its awareness. Guiding its awareness to the truth. Guiding this unstoppable geyser of power that we are towards truth. What is the truth? Do our spirits want to feel better? Do our spirits not want to rise to whatever we consider to feel better? Does the tip of the tongue want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth? How does that feel for you? Is the weight-bearing portion of the spine the front, and how does that feel for you? Following these blue lines on the screen, does the weight go into the singular tailbone, or is the weight distributed evenly across these rainbows arches and then into the sitting surfaces? How does that feel for you? If truth about the body feels good, if it's love, is the truth without hatred. If the truth within the body is Love, and love is this feeling that we can understand towards repeating. Or can't we love our mistakes as we feel good throughout our mistakes, not clouded by our inability to balance ourselves in our mistakes, so that we can learn the most about our mistakes and share the most about our mistakes? You want to be accepted by yourself, but you learn more about your mistakes so you can overcome the mistakes. You want to be accepted by other people, but you share the wisdom of learning about your mistakes. How can you share the best wisdom about learning about your mistakes? Spreading the truth about those mistakes so that people can learn about them too. But how do you see the truth of them? Well, don't you have to be unmarred by emotionalism? Don't you have to be clear of any kind of pain or imbalance so that you can see the actual truth of all sides of the story? So that people can learn the most about it. Isn't that what's so attractive? Oh, you want to be liked by people? I have no time for this, Herbie. I want to be liked by people. Want to be liked by people? Don't you need a clear sense of yourself so that you can spread more truths about your situations you go through so people can learn from you? Doesn't everybody like to learn about those things from you? And how you came over it. Look at you smiling now that you remember that the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Dang, how did you smile through that? Well, let me tell you. We'll be right back after this short break. My name is Herbie. But only if you remember that the back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical. Up. And. Down. Pull. B. Right. Back. Here. Paddle on. Are we feeling balanced? Move, full, free, and fluid as we are achieving muscular freedom through balance. Are we feeling the fronts of our shins today? Good morning. Welcome back to the last quarter of the show. How art thou? How are you doing today? Have you gotten yourself a glass of water? Have you gotten yourself some cereal and milk? Have you made yourself a tamale this morning? Have you made yourself some breakfast eggs? Toast? What you been up to? How art thou? Are we remembering that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth and leaving our swallowing muscles alone wherever we are? We're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling, simply that there's a candle in front of everyone's lips that we're trying to not put out. Wherever you are. How do we love our failures today? Well, how do we love all? Feel so good through it all so that we can see the truth without hatred. Why would we hate anything? Don't you have to feel threatened to hate anything? Doesn't there have to be something that you are rooting for to hate something? Two halves of the same coin, or two sides of the same coin. Isn't there an immediate feeling that hatred brings along with it, anger brings along with it? An inability to feel good or to feel secure in the body. To feel like the body will survive. What kind of situation does this develop? A fearful situation. And in a fearful situation, isn't there now room for hate and anger as you feel threatened? How do we love ourselves through failure? Doesn't failure feel threatening? How do we eliminate the feeling of threat at all? Placing into our awareness that there's a candle in front of everybody's lips that we're trying to not put out. And leaving our swallowing muscles alone. We're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling, whatever you are doing, whether you are typing away at a computer or at a bar. Maybe you just did a test and you feel like you bombed the test. Or maybe you did really well on the test. Maybe you think you didn't do as well as you wanted to on the test. Whatever it may be. A feeling it might be if we could eliminate the feeling of a threat wholesale. What then becomes of a failure? How often could we fail, meaning how often could we grow? The feeling of failure, the feeling of defeat, does it prevent us from our ability to grow? What if we could eliminate the feeling of failure, eliminate the feeling of defeat by pretending that there was a candle in front of every being's lips that they're trying to not put out? As how often is the feeling of failure projected onto us by others or people whom we feel fearful of, whether that be immediately or by through some long extended disjuncted consequence? How often is our failure related to how we feel about these people and how threatening they feel to us? So by pretending that they are one like us, by pretending that there's a candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out, how might we fare in these situations? How might we view these reactions? Should our view of failure be metamorphosized to just a feeling in which everybody is just projecting? But what if you could eliminate this feeling? And they might still project out there, but what if you could eliminate this feeling? As we know, this feeling arises from the ways we believe others to be. We believe others to be threatening in one shape or form, whether they be physical or by some long indirect consequence. Getting grounded, or maybe the looming threat of physicality, or maybe the looming threat of physicality just hanging over you, just uncomfortability. All of that packaged into every quote-unquote failure that you experience. But all of those are created from our brains projecting fears of previous moments in which we also could not breathe well. So we did not feel able to handle these new situations. These new situations always felt threatening, as our breathing would be threatened for the next 5-10 minutes or hours or days, depending on what situations we were stuck in. How hard it is to get our breathing back is reflected in the porn epidemic, the opium epidemic, the loneliness epidemic, the factioning of the countries. Demonstrated on full display is the result of being unable to breathe well. We find enclaves, we find little circles in which we can breathe well, and we stay there because we associate the feeling of breathing well with those places. But what if we could eliminate the feeling of breathing unwell due to all these other threats by always feeling well, always having a pathway to feeling well, so none of these people threaten our ability to feel well? How do we feel well? Well, one, eliminating the way they make us feel by pretending there's a candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out. They're not thinking about exhaling, and they're not thinking about inhaling. There's just a candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out. And as they are a reflection of you, as every human being reflects each other, it might remind you that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Here on Padawan, we invite you to remember that the back 1/3 of their tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down. The person you're looking at, whomever it might be, we invite you to remember that in their awareness and in your awareness, the back 1/3 of their tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down. And as a reflection of you, they might remind you that the back 1/3 of your tongue is up and down, vertical, vertical, up and down, as we leave our swallowing muscles alone. And finally, we might eliminate the feeling that failure brings by remember that the tip of the tongue for everybody wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. We're so sensitive to one another. We love each other. We love one another. We are very social creatures. We are human beings. We are social creatures. We love. That is our mode of living. We love. By default, so naturally we are so sensitive to one another, sensitive to the way one another feels about one another, sensitive to the way oneself feels about one's self, as that affects our ability to perform in the world. Our opinion of ourselves really does have an effect on the way we're able to output ourselves to the world. Mentally, physically, spiritually, relationships. And so we might find a lot of reasons to feel overly stressed out, overly angry. We might assume a lot of reasons to be angry whenever these quote-unquote failures happen to us, or we quote-unquote fail. But in our inability to breathe well, in our inability to have a relationship with getting out of our own way in order to breathe well and to love the way that we feel, in our inability to find a way to feel better or to love the way we feel, do we not project that onto others? How much of our performance in our daily lives, how much of our performance is related to the inability to breathe well, the feeling of stress? Now, how much of that is encouraged by others around us who also don't breathe well, or who have conditioned themselves to breathe unwell and to project that onto others the same way we have? How can we take total responsibility for any failure? Not meaning it absolves us of the consequences or our ability to take responsibility, but in a spiritual opinion of ourselves and self-worth, and with the amount of grace that is healthy for our relationship, for ourselves, to allow the tip of our tongue to come back to being anchored to back bottom front teeth, so that it can feel better in the body. How much blame do we actually take for it? How much in our spiritual opinion of ourselves, in order to hold ourselves down or punish ourselves? How much of any fault or any failure is solely our own, when we are constantly trying to breathe well and trying to meet our needs in life? How many times have we simply been meeting the needs of others in our breathing? How many times have we compromised ourselves for others? How many faults or how many failures are entirely one's self? Would that not free us to just simply balance ourselves? Instead of blaming the imbalance in our body, in our lives, instead of blaming the balance there, would it not be a course of action to take to simply name it, to now rebalance it? As in, the tip of the tongue forgot to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth there, and I realized my breathing Now, my speech, my throat chakra allowed me to identify exactly more of how much it was my fault, or how much I can take myself out of this situation and see the humor in which people can actually gain wisdom from. How much can I resist the temptation to make this failure about myself and more just about a human situation, which can now be seen as wisdom and help some poor sap in the future? How do we do that? By having a strong relationship with not being affected by the feelings. By pretending there's a candle in front of the lips that we're trying to not put out. In order to love our failures, to feel good throughout our failures so that we can see the good out of it. Not hyper-focus on ourselves, but hyper-focus on the good out of it. What can people learn from it? What would I want to know next time? What was funny about it? How did I feel better after it? Look at how awful this was. Now look how good I feel. How did you do it? Well, let me tell you, son. Let me tell you how bad it was, and you can see how easily it is to talk to me about it now. Wow, they must have done something great. They must have found a great way to remember that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Who knows what will come after that? Who knows what comes through the window once we align and open it properly? But how does it feel to have a relationship with being able to reliably open that window? Even in failure, the reliable window. How good does it feel to have a reliable window towards feeling good, even in failures? Thank you guys so much for coming through. As usual, all comments and chats will be addressed at the beginning, middle, and end of the show. We still do not, and it is the end of the show right now, so thank you so much for coming through. I want to thank you, whether you are from TikTok, Twitter, Discord, Instagram, word of mouth, or from a friend, or maybe from telepathy, or maybe from another planet. Thank you for coming through. And we probably are just watching on YouTube, so if you're here, thank you, YouTube. Thank you, DLive and Twitch also, as we will be back on there. We will be getting a proper intro once again. Shout out again, Eric Taylor Maine. We will be getting a proper intro soon. It is so nice to hear the interest. But until then, I hope you're feeling the fronts of your shins. We will see you next week. Hopefully we will have more updates on it in the future. Thank you guys always for all of the interest and for interlocking your fingers with me for a little bit. In your mind's eye, in your awareness, so to speak, by pretending that there was a candle in front of my lips that I'm trying to not put out. We will see you for the Mover Monday. And it will be October 25th, 2021. Oh my gosh, we are getting closer and closer to the end of the year. Pasco Na, as my grandma of 101 years old says all the time, Pasco Na. Which means it's already Christmas. Shout out happy birthday to Aldrich and Joe. We will be doing more of these shows in the future, so we hope that you knows. Have a great day, everyone. And remember to feel the front of the shins. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Let's hold our controller properly in this simulation of as in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. Thank you for accepting or entertaining these challenges of these body magic tricks. It feels so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. World peace through individual inner peace. Supercharging your morning, you superhuman you. We'll be right back on Monday. Goodbye, everybody. I shouldn't say right back. We'll be back on Monday. Have a great one! Music time sometime very soon. Can't wait. Let's do it.